Hey everybody, welcome to part 3 of my Vanquisher video series. In this video I'm just going to show you exactly how the game works. I kind of give you an idea of how these gameplay mechanics all work together to create this pretty darn interesting board game. So the game's set up for a 4-player game right now. We're just going to play basically in clockwise order, starting with black to orange to white to green. And that'll be a full turn, and we're going to do that through 12 turns or until somebody manages to create 16 blueprints or somebody is unable to build one of the final advanced auction offer blueprints. Of course, we're probably not going to have that much time, because if we do that, this is probably going to end up being a 2-hour video. And again, that's never my goal, is to create videos that long. I'm going to play through a couple rounds. I'm going to play kind of slowly in the beginning to explain to you how everything's working. Then I'm going to speed things up so you can get an idea of how the game actually plays when it's really played with players who understand how the rules really work. So we're going to start the game with a black player starting the very first turn in the very first year of the game. Now everybody has all their starting resources. I did that just to speed everything up here. We're just going to move directly into the gameplay. So starting with a black player, we're going to do the very first thing on our turn, which remember is the trade phase. And if we forget, there's this nice handy dandy reminder right here on the board. So basically we need to decide if we want to trade with any of the players, which is not possible because no players are producing any resources, or if we want to trade with a bank for some very steep costs. Well, we want to quickly look at any of the buildings, look at the resources we have, and try and figure out what strategy we have and see if it's worth spending any money on these resources. And we're going to pretty quickly decide at this point it's not really that great of an idea. So we're going to move past the trade phase and we're going to move to the action phase. Now during the action phase, we can interact with the bribery deck. We can move military units. We can also take some of these blueprints and put them on our desk for future building if we like. But those are the possibilities of all the things we can do. We're going to decide that for our very first action. Now remember, every single player starts the game with 2 actions that they're going to gain from their city hall. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a bribery card. Now normally these bribery cards are never shown to other players, but for this demo video, we're just going to simply flip it up so you can see exactly what we're looking at. We're going to flip over this one and we're going to see that's Ryder Tiello, or however you want to pronounce it. He is a one-time use bribery card, and if we do decide to play him, he's going to cost us 1 wood, but he's going to give us 1 gold, and he's going to give us 2 actions. Now, there's no threat available for him, which doesn't matter since we don't have any armies. So we've already spent 1 of our actions. If we want to play this card, it's going to cost us our 2nd action to do so. But if we do so, we're going to gain 1 gold, and we're going to gain 2 more actions we can use on this turn. All we have to do is spend 1 wood to do so. We're going to decide that we're going to spend the 1 wooden resource to play this card. This card is going to go in our discard pile, or the bribery discard pile. We are immediately going to gain 1 gold. That's going to put us at 7 gold, which is not too bad. And then we're going to gain 2 more actions. So we're basically back where we were in the beginning, except we traded 1 wood for 1 gold. So not too bad of a trade for now, because we're looking forward to spending some of this gold for getting some of these buildings, which do have some pretty decent gold costs on them. So now we have 2 actions. Do we want to take any of these blueprints and put them on our desk, or do we want to get some more bribery cards? We're going to decide that we're going to take another bribery card. Again, that's 1 action. We have 1 action left. These are never shown to other players, but we're just going to flip it over so you can see what we have. We're going to reveal the Soldier's Sands. Now this is a permanent bribery card, so once I play it, it's going to stay in play for this player for the rest of the game unless somebody else plays a bribery card that destroys this. And there are bribery cards that do that. And we're going to see that we're going to gain 1 gold every time one of our army tokens is destroyed, whether we destroy it or it's destroyed by another player. So this could be a very good gold generating engine for us. It is going to cost us 2 stone to put into play, or 2 army tokens for some threat. I don't think we're going to play this card. We're going to put it in our hand. Remember, we're allowed to have up to 4 bribery cards in our hand at the end of our turn. And with our remaining action, we're going to take 1 more bribery card. Again, we're going to reveal it just so you can see exactly what we're getting, but the other players never get to see this. We're going to get the Queen Caitlin bribery card. And this one says up to 2 times per turn during our action phase, you may destroy 1 of your army tokens to gain 1 gold or 1 wood. Well, it looks like we have a potential engine already being built, because these 2 cards are going to work off of each other. I'll be able to destroy an army to gain a resource and to gain gold. So if I get both these cards into play, and these are both permanent bribery cards, if I get them both into play, I'm going to have myself a little bit of a resource and money generating engine for the black player. So we've used up all our actions. We are done with the action phase. It's now time to move to the construction phase, where we need to buy one of these blueprints, build it immediately if that's what we wish to do, and then put that blueprint into play if that's what we want to do. So as the black player, during the construction phase, we have a couple different options. I'm pretty sure which option I'm going to pick, but going through everything we have here, I'm just going to go over it pretty quickly so you understand the kind of the thought process we have going on right now. We know for our resources, we currently have 7 gold, we have 2 wood, we have 2 stone, and we have 1 ore, which I will occasionally refer to as metal because I'm used to some other games. But ore and metal mean the same thing if I keep calling it back and forth. I apologize in advance. But those are the current resources we have, and now we need to concentrate on getting some of these really powerful auction cards early in the game, which could give us some benefits later on, but it may hamstring us early in the game, especially since we want to have the resources to get these blueprint cards out, because this could create a fantastic engine, and we know that with this engine that we're going to build, we need military units to do this, because military units are basically going to be our sacrificial lamb early in the game. That's going to allow us to start producing a lot of quick resources. So what we have a couple possibilities is we have our basic blueprint buildings that we can build. We can get the standard ones that we can allow us to get wood, possibly get some stone, or possibly get some metal. But what we are really going to concentrate on here is we want to find a way to get the army camp, because if we get the army camp, we are going to start producing warriors or military units that we can start sacrificing to start powering these blueprint cards once we get these blueprint cards into play. So we know we need the army camp. The trick here is that the army camp does require 2 ore to build, which we do not have, so we can't build it yet. So we need to now know that we need to start producing ore so we can eventually build that. So we're going to look towards the Blacksmith Hut right now, and we're going to see the Blacksmith Hut to build requires 3 gold and either 3 wood or 3 stone. Now we don't have the 3 wood to produce right now, but we do happen to have the 2 stone. Now remember, when you have red resources, you pick one of the red resources plus all the other resources that aren't currently red. So to build the Blacksmith Hut, it's going to be 3 gold and 3 wood, or it's going to be 3 gold and 2 stone, which we do have. So we're simply going to pay 3 gold to the bank, get a little bit of change back. Then we're going to go ahead and spend 2 stone also to the bank, and that's going to build the Blacksmith Hut for us. So we're going to put this Blacksmith Hut in play on our desk, showing that we have successfully built this building. Now we need to add this building onto our board. Now remember, we want to try to add these buildings onto the board in a way that they start occupying as many of these squares as we can, because that's how we're going to start scoring those victory points. So remember, we can never mirror the pattern, but we're free to rotate to figure out any kind of design that allows us to cover as much as we possibly can. So I'm going to actually place it pretty much the way the drawing shows, which is going to allow me to cover 1 square that I'm already part of, a 2nd square which I'm not part of, and a 3rd square that I wasn't part of originally. And now, right now at this point, the black player has already scored 6 victory points towards the end game condition. So we're going to have this card in play, we're going to lay it down on our desk. We have now completed that building. We're done with the construction phase because we don't have the ability to produce multiple constructions yet. So now we're going to move on to the collect phase, where we're going to gain some resources. During the collection phase, we're going to gain any resources that our empire currently produces. So our city hall starts out the game producing 1 gold. So we're simply going to take 1 gold from the bank. And we're back up to 5 gold. Not quite where we were at the start of the game, but we're almost there. So we're doing pretty darn decent at that aspect, at least. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to move over to our other building that's built, which is also going to allow us to produce ore. So we're going to produce 1 ore, putting us at a total of 2 ore. So we're actually doing okay on the ore, and moving ever closer to building that army camp on our next turn. We're done with our collection phase. It's now time to move to another trade phase, and we can decide if we want to do any trading. We really don't want to do any trading at this point, so we're pretty much going to end our turn, and we're now going to move on to the orange player, who gets to start their turn. For the orange player's turn, they're going to start every turn again. They start with the trade phase, and they need to look about purchasing any trade goods from the bank. But we now actually have the option that we can start buying trade goods from another player, because there's 1 player currently in play who is able to produce trade goods. So I could purchase 1 ore from the black player, and we can see that that would cost us 3 gold if we wanted to, and that would allow us to start our turn, our construction phase, with at least 2 ore. So that is a possibility for us. But this early in the game, we're not really thinking about doing that, even though it is an option. But looking at all the blueprints are available, that's probably not something we want to do quite yet. So we're going to bypass the trade phase and move into the action phase, where we get 2 actions. And again, if you forget, it's always listed on your city hall. For our very first action, we're actually going to take a bribery card. We're going to flip it over just to show you, but again, the other players never get to see your bribery cards. And we're going to see that we get the trader and our bribery card. This is one of those bribery cards that allows us to directly interact with other players And right now I'm actually regretting not doing what I was going to do, because I see now that if I knew I had this card, I could have actually built my castle right now. So hindsight's 2020, but oh well, at least we know that we could do something very, very mean to another player. So what we're going to do with a trader and a card is we are going to spend our second action to actually play this card. This card takes no resources at all, doesn't cost us any threat, and allows us to take 2 gold from any player directly. So we're just going to pick on one player currently in play, and we're going to decide that, well, you know what, we're just going to pick on the white player because they're next in turn order, and we are going to take money directly from them. We're going to take 2 money, 2 gold directly from them. That puts us all the way up at 8 money, and that's both of our actions spent, 1 for drawing the card and 1 action for playing the bribery card. We're done with the action phase. We now get to move to the construction phase, where we're going to decide that we are going to build a market. So we are going to build the market, and actually I'm looking at all the buildings that are out right now, and I think I'm actually going to take that back. We are going to, instead of building a market, we are going to build a... Actually, we'll stick with our original plan. We are going to go ahead and purchase a market. No need to hesitate. Might as well make some really good decisions here early in the game and at least build our engine right now while we can. So we know the market is going to cost us 2 gold and 1 wood. That's pretty easy for us to cover. We're going to cover the 2 gold, and then we're going to cover the 1 wood, which we're going to discard back to the bank, and then we are going to successfully build our market. So again, when we build the market, we can rotate this however we want, and we're going to add the market onto the territory board, increasing the size of our empire. So we're simply going to add the market onto the board just like this, and now we're currently inside 2 different areas. We're currently scoring 4 victory points. That's it for the construction phase. It's now time to go to the collect phase, where we're going to earn 1 gold for our city hall, and we're going to earn 1 gold for our market, putting us back all the way up at 8 gold, doing very, very well there. We're done with the collect phase. We're now going to move over to the trade phase, where we need to see if we want to do any resource purchases. And we're going to decide that we are going to spend 3 gold right here and right now, and we're going to give this over to Black, who gains the money, and we're going to use their Blacksmith Hut right now to produce 1 metal ore. That's going to put us at 2 metal ore, and we do have a plan that we're deciding what to do now. Now remember, the resource comes from the bank, even though we pay that player for access to that resource for that round. That's the end of our turn because we're done with the trade phase. We're now going to move over to the white player, who's going to start the turn also with the trade phase. Unfortunately, the white player got hit a little bit hard by some mean, evil actions of the orange player, so we don't have as much money available to us at the start of our turn. So we can't really do any really good trading right now because we're going to need a little bit of our money. So we're going to bypass the trade phase. We're going to move to the action phase, where we're also going to take a bribery card, hoping that we can get a little bit of revenge versus the orange player. We do get a decent bribery card right now, which is going to allow us to increase the max size of our shelf. Now remember, the shelf is how many bribery cards you can keep in your hand at the end of your turn. Normally it's only 4, but if I get this card into play, I'll be able to keep a maximum of 6 bribery cards in my hand. Not too useful to us early in the game because we only have 1 bribery card as it is. So we're not going to put that bribery card into play. We're simply going to place it face down in our empire, in our shelf, which is basically our hand. So we still have 1 action left to go. We can claim one of these blueprints, and while all the blueprints are looking pretty darn good, especially some of these advanced ones, especially that castle, which we may want to claim, we're actually not going to do that. Again, we're looking for some good, quick, early resources from some bribery cards. So we're going to draw a second bribery card, and we're going to gain the Assassin Gen. Now the Assassin Gen card is one of those cards that's also a permanent bribery card, but it's going to give us the ability to destroy some of our armies to gain resources. Now this is actually a fantastic bribery card that we definitely want to get in play as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, even though we do have the resources, we're out of actions because we spent both of our actions drawing bribery cards. So that'll go into our hand, and we're now going to move to the construction phase. During the construction phase, we know exactly what we want to do. We want to build the army camp so we start producing some of these armies, because we know that if we have armies, we can gain resources if we get that bribery card into play. Unfortunately, the army camp does require us to have a second ore resource, which we do not produce at this time, so we need to figure out a way to produce ore. We can either buy it from this player over here, giving them more money, or we can just decide that we want to find a way to start producing our own ore ourselves. So we're not going to start giving away more of our money because we don't have much money to give away as it is. So we're going to look past the army camp, and we're actually going to look towards the barracks. Now we have moved to the construction phase. So we are going to decide that we are going to construct the barracks, which is going to allow us to produce one extra army. Luckily, since we have a city hall, we do have at least the capacity for one army, so that's actually not too bad for us. So this is going to cost us 1 gold and 1 ore, which we have both of. We'll spend the gold, and then we'll spend the 1 ore, and we will put the barracks into play in our empire. And again, we can spin this around however we want to try to figure out how we want to add this barracks onto the territory control board. We'll simply grab the 3 cubes, and I think we are going to build straight across on this one. So we built our barracks. We're now covering 2 territories. So if this was the end-game scoring, we're currently having 4 victory points versus Orange, who has 4 victory points, versus the black player, who currently has 6 victory points. We do have 1 building in play. We're done with the construction phase because we don't get multiple constructions. So now we get to move to the collection phase. So during the collection phase, we are going to gain 1 gold from our city hall. And then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to gain 1 of our armies, which is going to go onto our board. Now we need to put this on a card that has capacity. The only card we own right now that actually has capacity is the City Hall. So we'll place this army on top of the City Hall card, so we know that we have access to this army to either on future action phases move them onto the board, or if we get this bribery card into play, we can start burning these for free resources to start shoring up some of the deficiencies our empire currently has, to start earning some resources to start building the buildings to start winning the game. That's the end of the collection phase. We're going to move to the trade phase. There's no trade we want to do right now at this time, so we're going to skip the trade phase, end our turn, and move over to the green player. Of course, before I forget, as soon as we picked up this blueprint right here, I should have immediately refilled it. So we will refill that and we'll see that we're going to get a church. Now we'll move over to the green player, who will start their turn with the trade phase. We're going to skip the trade phase. There's no resources we want to purchase at this time, at least not with our money. Even though it is kind of tempting right now to try to purchase some metal from the black player, looking at some of these buildings out there right now. And actually, I think we are going to go ahead and do that right now. So we're going to trade this in to gain 5 singles. Now that we have 5 singles, we're going to take 3 of those singles, and we are going to use that to purchase the access to the Blacksmith Hut from the black player, which is going to give us 1 metal resource. We'll add that metal resource to our empire. We're going to finish the trade phase. We're going to move to the action phase. A lot of these blueprints are looking really nice, but in the early game, it's always nice to get some of these bribery cards, because some of the powers on some of these bribery cards can be very, very nice. We're going to gain the Lady Vanessa card, which is a permanent bribery card, which allows us to create an engine where every time we spend or use additional bribery cards, they're going to allow us to start producing some wood. So that could be a good card to get into play, but we're not going to get into play quite yet, especially since we don't have the 3 stone resources. Card's going to go on our shelf, and we have 1 action left over. We can claim one of these advanced blueprints right here if we like. And again, these are some good looking blueprints, especially that castle, which is getting very, very tempting. But we're not going to do that. Again, we're going to take 1 more bribery card and hope for something very, very cool. We're going to get the Farmer Louise, which is actually very, very nice to get early in the game. This is a one-time use bribery card that allows us to choose 2 resources, and then we're going to gain them, and every other player is going to get 1 random resource. Now, in the final version of the game is going to come with a 6-sided die, which is going to have different pictures of resources on it. So anytime you get one of these cards that say gain a random resource, you're going to roll the die, and that's the resource you're going to gain. So, again, as I've said multiple times, this is a preview copy of the game, not final components, just to let you know what will be in the final release here. But if I do use this card as the green player gets to choose any 2 resources they want, and then the remaining players each get 1 random resource added to their empire. Unfortunately, even though this is a great card to get right now, because we'd love to have those 2 resources, we're out of action, so we can't actually use it. We'll put it on our shelf, we'll end our action phase, and we're now going to move to the construction phase. For the construction phase, we know we want the stone masonry hut, because remember our bribery card right here that requires 3 stone that we want to get into play. So we want to have access to at least 3 stones, so we know we want the stone masonry hut. So we're going to take the stone masonry hut, which is going to cost us 2 gold. Luckily, we still do have 2 gold. It's going to take 2 wood or 1 metal beyond that. We are going to go ahead and, judging back and forth, it's a pretty tough call trying to look at all the other cards that are out there right now. We're actually going to decide that we're going to go ahead and spend the 2 wood for now. And I'm going to take that back because we know we do have access to metal from the black player and no access to wood quite yet in the game. So we're actually going to spend the 1 metal. That's probably a better decision for us right now. We're going to build a stone masonry hut. We're going to add this to our empire, and then we get to actually build the building. We're going to add the building onto the board, and again, we're now scoring 4 victory points, 4 victory points, 4 victory points, and the black player is still at 6 victory points if this was the end game scoring. We only have 1 construction per turn so far, thanks to our city hall. Construction phase is now over. We're going to move to the collection phase where we're going to gain 1 gold. Since we have the stone masonry hut, we're going to gain 1 stone. We're done with the collection phase. We're going to move over to the trade phase where we don't want to trade, especially since we only have 2 gold left over. So we're pretty much going to end our turn. That is 1 complete turn in Vanquisher. The turn is over. We're now going to move into the second year of the game, starting all over with the black player. It's the start of the black player's turn, and we need to start the turn with the trade phase. For our trade phase, we know that we want to somehow get some extra lumber so we can get the Queen Caitlin into play. And we also want to get the soldiers into play, but we want Caitlin in play before the soldiers so they start feeding off of each other. So we know that we need to somehow gain access to either 3 wood or 2 soldiers. It's probably going to be easier for us to get access to 3 wood, so we're going to find a way to get 1 more wood since we actually have 1 wood resource left over right now. So all we need to do, we're in the trade phase. We're going to purchase lumber directly from the bank for a cost of 3, which isn't too bad for us because everybody's been giving us money so far during the game. We're going to spend the 3, gain the 1 lumber, and that's going to be all we're going to do for our trade phase. We're done with the trade phase. Now we're going to move over to the action phase. So for the action phase, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to play this bribery card, and we're going to put it in play on our desk, and it's going to give us a permanent power for the rest of the game. This is going to cost us either 3 lumber and 1 metal, or it's going to cost us 2 threat. Well, we're going to decide that we're going to spend the 3 lumber since we have it. And we are also going to spend the 1 ore, and that's going to allow us to put the Queen Caitlin card into play, giving us a permanent power for the rest of the game. This card stays on our shelf again, face down, so other players do not see this card. And now we have the Queen Caitlin card in play, and that only costs us 1 action. We actually still have 1 action left over. With our 1 remaining action, we're going to claim the Swordsmith Hut card, and this is going to be immediately replaced with the next card with the auction stack. And the reason why we're taking this card is because it produces armies. We know that we want to get an engine building or producing armies because we start sacrificing our armies to give us resources and also to block off the other players, so it gives us multiple benefits. So this card, since it's purchased during the action phase, is not actually built. It's going to go into our hand face down so other players don't see it. But even though they saw us draw it, so they know what we drew, but they don't get to see it anymore, it's going to stay face down. But also remember, if I don't get this card into play before the end of the game, I'm going to lose 5 victory points. So it's a little bit of a gamble, but not too much of a gamble because I'm pretty sure I can get that card into play. Done with the action phase, we now get to go to the construction phase where I know I need to get armies and I know I need to get wood production. Well, wood production is going to be the easiest thing for me to get right early in the game, except for the fact that I no longer have access to the stone. So I need to look at towards the army camp and see if I can afford to get the army camp. Unfortunately, I can't get the army camp into play either because I did some pretty poor planning and miscalculated on 1 little aspect. What I should have done is also should have bought 1 stone from the trade bank during the trade phase, and I actually forgot to do that. So I don't believe in take back, so no returning, no going back over what we've done. So we're simply going to move on, and we're going to see if we want to get the stone masonry hut, which we could do, but then we're going to be even further from getting our army camp, losing sight of our eventual goal. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to decide that mistakes happen. We're going to move on. We're going to skip the construction phase, and we're going to move all the way over to the collect phase. So during the collect phase, we're going to earn 1 ore, and we're going to also earn 1 gold for having our city hall, and those are all the resources we're going to get during the collect phase. We're done with our collect phase. We now get to move to the trade phase, where I'm going to make sure I don't forget for the next time that I'm going to spend the $4. Actually, don't even need to do that because I just remember that this person does produce stone. So I'm going to purchase the stone directly from them, which is going to cost only $2, which is not quite as expensive. I'll spend the $2, give that to the green player, take the 1 stone, add the 1 stone back into my supply. We're done with the collect phase, we're done with the trade phase, we're done with this player's turn, and it's now time to move over to the orange player. The orange player, for their turn, they're going to start their trade phase by trying to gain some ore that they're going to need, some stone. So we're going to cash in our 5 to gain some singles right here, and then out of these singles we're going to spend 2 of them. all the way over to the green player. That's going to allow us to get 1 stone. We're going to add that stone to our empire right here. We're done with the trade phase. We're now going to move to the action phase. First thing we're going to do on the action phase is we're going to look at the top bribery card and see if it's a good bribery card or not. We're going to see it's the Merchant Molly, which is going to be a one-time use to gain 3 gold if we're willing to spend 2 wood to do so. Well, I don't think we're willing to do that right now because we know we want the wood, because we know what our eventual goal is. So we're going to keep this card, place that face down in our empire on our shelf so other players can't see what that card is, and we still have 1 action left over. For our action, even though this is going to telegraph what we're wanting to do, we're going to claim the castle, place it face down, and that's going to be replaced with a temple, which is worth victory points at the end of the game. So we used both of our actions. We're now going to move to the construction phase. During the construction phase, we are going to decide that we're going to construct a lumberjack hut, which is going to allow us to start producing wood, which will allow us to build that castle. So we know that we need 1 gold to build this, and we know that we need 1 stone. We'll pay the gold. We will gladly pay the stone. We'll pay the 1 stone to build this, and this is a very small building. We're going to add it onto our empire board. Adding to our empire, we're now currently in 1, 2, 3 different areas, worth 6 victory points at the end of the game. We're going to add this building to our empire. That building now produces resources. We're done with the construction phase, since we only get 1 construction per turn for now until we get some of these more advanced cards into play. We're done with the construction phase. We now move to the collect phase, where we're going to gain 2 gold, 1 for our city hall, 1 for our market, and then we're going to gain 1 wood from our lumberjack hut, and now we have enough resources on our next turn to build our castle. We're done with the collection phase. We're going to move to the trade phase. We don't want to do that. We're going to end our turn moving back to the white player. Now the white player on their turn, remember, we have these 2 bribery cards that we really like, and we want to definitely get one of them into play. That's the Assassin Gin, which costs us 2 wood, costs us 1 metal, and also costs us 1 gold. This student right here, we're not too interested in getting her into play quite yet, so we know what kind of resources we need to work towards, because this is going to allow us to start sacrificing our military units that we constantly produce to gain any single resource that we really want. So this is a really good card to get into play, but we know we need 1 gold, 2 wood, and 1 ore. We do currently have 2 stone, 3 wood, but we don't have the ore that is necessary to bring her into play. So we're going to start our trade phase by trading and accessing this blacksmith hut over here, which is going to cost us 3 gold, leaving us 1 left over, just barely enough to do what we need to do. That's going to give us the 1 ore that we need. We're done with the trade phase. We're now going to move to the action phase, where we're going to spend the 1 gold, our last remaining gold that we have. We're going to spend the 2 wood, and then we're going to spend the 1 ore to bring the Assassin Gin into play. Now the Assassin Gin says once per turn at the end of your collection phase, you can sacrifice up to 2 military units, and every time you do, that's going to allow you to gain 1 resource from the trade, any resource that you want, but this army is going to be destroyed. So now we're starting to produce some resources for our empire. So that's a really nice card to get into play. We just need to hope we don't hamstring ourselves early in the game by spending too many resources and leaving us without money. We're done with the trade phase. We're actually still in the action phase. We actually have 1 action left over. And with that action, we're simply going to claim a bribery card, and we're going to look at it without showing the other players. We're going to say that it's General Randall, and it says once per turn, at the end of your collect phase, you can choose an army token. That army token cannot be destroyed until the end of your next turn. So this is a nice defensive one. Not too good for us right now, but it's definitely one we can use later on, especially if we want to start messing with the other players. We're done with our action phase. We're now on the construction phase, where we need to see if there's any buildings we can build out there right now. Unfortunately, there aren't any buildings we can construct, at least none that we have the resources available for, so we're going to bypass the construction phase and move to the collect phase. During the collect phase, we are going to make 1 gold. That's the only resource we're going to have, because we can't build another army unit because we don't have a place to house them. So this barracks is effectively not going to have any effect right now. So at the end of our collect phase, we're going to activate the assassin. We're going to let this army unit be destroyed, and then we get to pick any 1 resource we want. Well, the resource we want right now happens to be money. So we're going to claim the money. We're done with our collection phase. We're going to move to the trade phase, where there's no trading we wish to do. We're going to end our turn and move over to the green player and decide exactly what kind of actions they want to take. For the green player's turn, we're going to skip the trade phase, so there's no trading we want to do. We're going to move directly to the action phase, and for our very first action, we're going to play the Lady Vanessa card. Lady Vanessa is going to cost us 3 stone to get her into play. but she's definitely going to be worth it because for the rest of the game, every single time we play a bribery card, we're going to gain 1 wood, which is very nice. And since we produce stone, we're not too concerned about spending 3 stone to bring her to play. She's now a permanent bribery card in play for our Empire. And then for our second action, we're going to play another bribery card, which is going to manage to gain us some wood. So we'll take the wood, add that wood to our Empire, and we're going to play the Farmer Louisa, which is a one-time use card, which allows us to pick any 2 resources we want and add those 2 resources to our Empire. We're going to pick 2 ore, add those 2 ore to our Empire, and then before this card is discarded, every single other player gets 1 random resource. Now I don't have the randomizer die, so for every single player, I'm going to actually let them pick, and I know that goes against the spirit of the rules, but I don't have the randomizer die, and I don't want to slow down the process while I go find one, so let's go ahead and just do this randomly. We'll take wood, next person's going to take stone, and the final person is just going to take ore just to move things along very, very quickly. This card's going to go in the discard pile. We're done with both of our actions. We're now going to move to the construction phase for the green player. For the construction phase, we're simply going to decide that we're going to build the Blacksmith Hut. Now the Blacksmith Hut is going to cost us 3 gold. Spend that quite easily, and then we're either going to spend 3 wood or 2 stone. Well, we're going to decide that we're going to spend the 3 wood because we easily have access to it. That builds a Blacksmith Hut. That Blacksmith Hut is now added to our Empire. Again, we can spin the card any way we want to make sure we're adding it onto the board here in the most efficient manner. And then we're simply just going to add it on simply just like that. That card has now been added to our Empire. Now that's 1 more resource we're going to produce as we move into the collection phase. So for the collection phase, we're going to earn 1 gold for our City Hall. We're going to earn 1 stone for our stone masonry hut. And then finally, we're going to earn 1 ore for having our blacksmith hut. That's it for the collection phase. We're now going to move to the trade phase where I don't think we want to do any trading at all. We're going to end our turn. We're now into the 3rd year of the game. The 2nd year of the game. No, I had to write 3rd year. Anyways, 10 years left to the game. It's now back to the black player. I think I've given you enough slow gameplay and slowly try to explain how the concepts are working for the game. I'm now going to speed things up and show you how the game actually plays when players kind of understand the rules, and we're going to move through things a lot quicker now. So we're going to start with the black player moving through, and we have 10 rounds left to the game. Not going to play through all of them, but let's start seeing how the board is going to start playing out for all of our players. So for the black player, we're going to start with the trade phase. We need stone. We're going to purchase stone all the way over here from this player's stone masonry hut. Again, that's going to cost us 2. Give them the 2. We get the 1 stone. We're going to move to the action phase. Very first action is we're going to bring the soldiers into play. That's going to cost us 2 stone. Yeah, that gets rid of our stone. We have 1 action left. We're going to claim this Vanquisher card, have a quick peek at it. And this is one of those mean ones that allows us to start destroying other players' bribery cards, which is a good one to keep back if we want. We're done with our action phase. Construction phase, we are going to go ahead and build the army camp. It's going to cost us 3 gold. And it's going to cost us 2 ore. Add the army camp to our board. We're done with our construction phase. We have no constructions left. We're now going to move over to collecting our resources. So during our collection resources phase, we are simply going to gain 1 army, and that's going to go, we'll put over in our city hall. We're going to gain 1 gold from our city hall. And then finally, this is going to produce 1 ore for our empire. We're done collecting our resources. We're now going to move to the trade phase. No trade we want to do. Turn is over. We're going to move over to the orange player. We're going to bypass our trade phase, move over to our action phase. For action phase, we're going to claim a bribery card. We're going to have a quick look at it. It's a one-time use. Allows us to move some of our armies. Not going to use it. Look at the next one. It's going to be, allows us to draw bribery cards. Unfortunately, we don't have any actions to use it. We're going to skip that. We're now going to move over to our construction phase, and we're going to construct our castle. Castle is going to cost us 4 gold. Then it's going to cost us 3 stone. It's going to cost us 2 rocks, and then finally it's going to cost us 2 ore. We're now able to build our castle onto the board. Now the castle is pretty large. It's going to take up a lot of real estate, which is something we're very happy to do, because that's going to give us a lot of victory points at the end of the game, because we're covering a lot of area. And then we need to decide what benefit we're going to gain from our castle, because the special ability of the castle says that For the rest of the game, we can pick one specific kind of building type, except for a religious building. And for the rest of the game, those buildings cost 2 less gold and 1 less resource. Now, in the final release of the game, there's going to be a marker you can use that's going to give you a reminder of which benefit your castle is giving you for the rest of the game. Unfortunately, in the promo copy, we don't have that, so I'm just going to pick a certain kind of building type, and that's going to be the building type that the castle is going to benefit for the rest of the game. So just to make things simpler, and as a nice reminder, we're going to use one of these cubes, and we're going to mark a resource building. So now we know for the rest of the game, all resource buildings, which are the buildings that have this symbol right here. So we see Lumberjack Hut, Stonemasonry Hut, Blacksmith Hut, etc. There's some more buildings that have that marker on them. But all of them are going to cost 2 less gold and 1 less resource, which means, example, Lumberjack Hut is going to be free to build. This building right here, the Stonemasonry Hut, is going to be free to build for the rest of the game. And the Blacksmith Hut will only cost us 1 gold and 1 stone to build. So that's a fantastic early build for us to have. That's the Orange Player's construction phase. We're going to move to the collect phase, where we're going to get 1 gold from our city hall. Our market is going to produce 1 additional gold. Our Lumberjack Hut is going to produce 1 wood. Our castle produces nothing. We're going to move to the trade phase. No trade we wish to do. We're done. We're going to move back to the white player and seeing if there's any of these bribery cards we want to play quite yet. And we know that there's nothing we can do for the trade phase because we're lacking the funds right now, so we're going to move to the action phase, and hopefully we're going to find a way to earn at least 1 gold really, really quick. First thing we're going to do is draw this card, which is a one-time use. Costs us no resources and says we gain 2 resources and all the other players gain some resources. And this is one of those cards that's going to cost us nothing right now. And this is actually a perfect timing for this card. So we are actually going to play this card right now. It says we're going to gain 2 wood. We are going to gain 2 stone. And then we're going to gain 1 ore, which we're happily going to do. Now, granted, this is going to help all the other players who are each going to gain 1 wood and 1 stone apiece. But fortunately, right now, this is going to work out just perfectly for this player, so we're quite happy with receiving this card. So we've used our first action to draw the card, our second action to actually play the card. Card goes to our discard pile. We now get to move to our construction phase, where thanks to that 1 card, we now have the resources to start producing some of these blueprints. For the construction phase, we know that our current biggest handicap we have right now is the fact that we're not producing enough money. So we're going to go ahead and produce one of these markets. We're going to cost 2 gold to do it, which is the last of our money, but we're okay with that. It's also going to cost us 1 wood, which we fortunately, wouldn't you know, we actually have. So we're going to build that on our board, and we're going to place it out in the most efficient manner onto the board. We have built this building. It's now going to produce resources. Our construction phase is over. We now move to our collect phase, where we're going to earn 1 from our city hall. We're gonna earn 1 soldier from our barracks, and then our market is going to increase and give us 1 additional gold. Now the assassin we can't use for resources because we know money is our current thing that's hurting us the most. So we're going to activate our assassin to get rid of the soldier to gain us 1 gold, because she does allow you to gain any 1 resource, and money is a resource. So we're doing good on the other resources so far. We've managed to do a construction. We're done with our collect phase. We're not going to do any trading. We're done with the white player. We're now back to the green player's turn. We have no bribery cards to worry about. We want to see if we want to do any trading at the start of our turn. For the green player's turn, we know we don't want to do any trading. We're going to move over to the action phase because remember, we want to take as much advantage of the Lady Vanessa as we can. So we're going to draw one of these bribery cards, and hopefully it's going to be an instant one that we can use right now. And it says, this is actually a perfect one. It says the gardener, Molly, she's going to allow me to take 1 resource from the trade depot. And after that, I get to take 1 random resource from the trade depot. But if I play this card, remember, I'm also going to activate the Lady Vanessa, which is going to give me 1 wood every time I use a bribery card. So let's go ahead and take advantage of that right here and right now and gain all the resources we're needing, because we're eyeballing the courthouse, and that's going to bring us we're going to miss it just by 1, so we can't bring out the courthouse yet. But we can definitely start getting some resources that are going to really help build our empire very, very quickly. So let's play this card really, really quick. We're going to gain the 1 wood for playing it just off the Lady Vanessa. And then we're going to pick 1 resource that we want. We're going to go ahead and choose wood as our resource. And then we're going to get 1 random resource. So randomly, let's just say we randomly happen to get stone. That's the complete play of our action phase. We're now going to move over to our construction phase. So for our construction phase, We know we're producing stone, we're producing ore. We now need to figure out a way to start producing some wood. Even though we do have a good wood production engine with her, but we want to get this third one out, because once we have the third one out, we can purchase the farm, which is going to double the production of all these resource gathering buildings. And you're going to start seeing how this game is going to start snowballing, because we're going to start producing a lot of resources very, very quickly, which is going to allow us to start building some of these very large blueprints, and we're going to see this board start filling up extremely quickly at this point. So we're going to build a lumberjack hut. It's going to cost us 1 gold, and it's also going to cost us 1 stone. We have both those very, very easily in access. We're going to pay those resources. Lumberjack hut is going to get built. It's a very, very small building. We're going to add it onto the board right here. Again, building on the corner. So we're now into another area. So we're now scoring 2, 4, 6, 8 victory points currently. So not doing too bad for our empire. We're done with the construction phase. We're now going to move into the collection phase. We're going to gain 1 gold from our city hall. We're going to gain 1 of every single resource, since we have 1 of every single one of those buildings. We're done with all the collection. We're going to move to the trading phase. We don't want to do any trading at all. We're now going to move down into the next turn, ending the turn, and now we would, at this point, go back to the black player. I think you've seen enough of the gameplay to see how the game is going to slowly start snowballing, and the aggression is going to start increasing as players start encroaching on each other's territories. The game does kind of have a little bit of a slow start, but I did want to show you how the game plays and show you how all these mechanics go together to create the gameplay. Again, as you can see, especially with the green player, all the resource production is going to start doubling here very, very quickly. And you're going to start seeing that they're going to start snowballing across the board. And it looks like every one of our players is slowly working towards building up their engine, which is going to give them all the resources to start contesting for various parts of the board and trying to get the achievements to see who can get the most victory points at the end of the game. I don't want this video to go on too much longer. Again, I think this is a pretty good overview of exactly how the game plays. I hope you enjoyed the sample gameplay video. If you have any comments or questions, as always, leave them in the YouTube comments down below. You can also email me at offtheshelfboardgamereviews, that's otsbgr@gmail.com. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks for watching.